Welcome back to the UN General Assembly. We are witnessing an historic event on Al Jazeera today, the first ever live televised debate of the candidates to the post of UN Secretary General. 12 candidates in total are vying for the post to replace Ban Ki-moon in January of 2017. We have 10 of them with us on Al Jazeera. We've already heard from 5 of them who've given us their vision of the United Nations and what it should be. Now we have our next panel of 5.
And of course there are lots of people watching this on the web and on TV. If you have a comment about what you're watching here, remember you can comment on various social media platforms, hashtags AJUNDebate and hashtag Next Secretary General. The next 5 candidates are on the stage, and it's time that we introduced those 5 candidates to you. We start with Helen Clark.
Danilo, Turk.
Christiana, Figueres.
Igor, Lukšić.
Irina, Bokova.
Thank you all for being here. Thank you for participating in this historic event.
And let's get the second round of the UN debate underway. Here we go again, and it's the same format as last time, but those who perhaps didn't catch the beginning of the last programme, we're going to hear from each of the candidates about their background and why they want this job, this poison chalice of being the Secretary General of the United Nations. So let's go one by one. They have 90 seconds each to set out their stall. Helen Clark, Administrator of the UN Development Programme and the former Prime Minister of New Zealand.
It's not a poison challenge. There are many challenges the UN has to step up to, and they run across development, environment, human rights, humanitarian needs, peace and security. I know we've got the groundbreaking agendas for sustainable development and climate change, and we have to work to implement them as fast as we can. But I think where the UN is seen to be falling short is in the peace and security area. We have to get better at preventing conflict and resolving conflict. I believe the long-term answers lie in building the peaceful and inclusive societies which will talk their differences out and not fight them out. But in the short term, we have to get a lot better at anticipating those warning signs of what could spill over into serious human rights abuses and conflict. As Secretary General, in stepping up to these challenges, I would draw on my long experience of leadership and of having to make a lot of hard calls. And I do think I have the vision, the experience and the skills to lead this great organisation, founded in 1945, to have a better, fairer, safer world for all its people. Thank you.
Next, Danilo, Turk, former President of the Republic of Slovenia and the UN Assistant Secretary General, former for Political Affairs.
The world today needs a renovated United Nations. But in order to renovate the United Nations, we need experience, we need commitment, and we need vision. And I believe that in my 30 years of work with the United Nations, I have gained a great deal of experience in human rights, in dealing with political issues in the General Assembly and Security Council, and later as Assistant Secretary General for Political Affairs. The interesting thing is that in all this time, my commitment to the United Nations has only grown stronger. Today, before this meeting, I met one of my friends from the indigenous community, And we talked about the times when the Declaration on Indigenous Peoples was formulated in the United Nations, and we very quickly realized what kind of action is needed today. So this is an example which shows how commitment comes from experience and how current tasks can be identified with clarity. And of course that requires development of partnerships. UN cannot be only a club of governments. It has to have partners in the non-governmental community, in civil society generally, in academia and the business community. And I believe that tonight we'll be able to talk about this in some detail. Thank you.
Christiana Figueres headed the UN's top climate change body, and she led more than 100 countries to a global climate deal in Paris last year.
Good evening, and thank you all for coming here tonight. My vision is that of a community of nations coming together to work in a deeply collaborative manner to address the toughest problems of our planet. I know that this is difficult. I know it is difficult because I have done it. 6 years ago, I inherited a collapsed negotiation with a total deadlock in the process and with total absence of trust among all parties involved. 6 days ago, I left that process on the back of the most ambitious agreement that is unanimous, that is legally binding, and that points a clear path forward for all nations and all other stakeholders to address the issue of climate change. That was possible because with patience and determination, we collectively built a process that fully respected national interests, national needs, and national ambitions, but that was at the same time capable of identifying the common ground. That is multilateralism at its best, and that is what we need in all other areas of the United Nations, in particular in peace and security, that is at the heart of the UN. I have delivered a multilateral breakthrough. I believe that with clear leadership, together we can and we must continue to deliver multilateral breakthroughs time after time after time.
Igor Lukšić is the former Prime Minister of Montenegro. He was until recently also his country's Foreign Minister.
Good evening, first of all, to all, and I have to say it's a great pleasure to be here tonight and take part in such a distinguished panel on such an important topic. First time so public, first time so open and transparent. It's been also a great pleasure to take part in the whole of the process up to now, and rightly so. Today, we're in the process that selects 1 for 7 billion, as one of the NGOs has nicely put it. But 70 years ago, it was 1 for 2 billion. And when UN turns 150, it will be 1 for 11 billion. So the world changes, will continue to change. We have to be ready to face the change. We have to be ready and able to respond to all the challenges we're going to face. I come from a country which 20 years ago was in the region that was engulfed in war. We had mass massacres, we had a number of different other problems. But we managed to come out of the crisis, we've managed to sustain peace. We have always been investing a lot in multi-religiousness, multiculturality of my country. And I believe we have developed also certain transitional experience that can show to the world certain examples that can be actually what the world today needs. Talking about the challenges that UN faces, we quite often point to the need that we have to respect some of the major principles, like 50% gender parity, rightly so. But what I also like to emphasize is another 50% of the world's population, that they are under 25. We have to work, we have to prepare UN, we have to work for them, because that's the generation to come, and we have to prepare a world for them.
Thank you. Irina Bokova is the Director General of UNESCO, and she served as an acting Foreign Minister for Bulgaria.
First, James, thank you for this opportunity to Al Jazeera and, of course, to the President of the General Assembly. There are two reasons which gave me the audacity and the courage to be a candidate for this important position. The first, of course, is the great privilege of serving an organization like UNESCO for the last 7 years, which has a wide-range mandate, and I would say a beautiful mandate, the soft power of the United Nations, to promote education, to promote culture, intercultural dialogue, to protect world's heritage, to give all the power of the sciences, of new technologies, to give also and work for the promotion of the freedom of expression, of freedom of speech, to protect journalists. And I believe nowadays the challenges that are in front of us with the conflict, with the humanitarian situations, with the climate change, ask for more United Nations, ask for more engagement, for more of the soft power of the United Nations. And the second reason is I'm a deep believer in multilateralism, coming from a country that is multicultural, a bridge between the East and the West. And coming from East Europe, we in Eastern Europe, and I turn to Igor and to Danilo, have gone through a profound change. We know what transformation of society is. We know what it is to make democratic societies and to instill some democratic values. And I think we are deep believers precisely because of that. So I think that with this experience, I can serve the United Nations.
Thank you very much.